All right. Well, hi everybody. Thank you for stopping by and watching this podcast. Today we have special guest Martin Brunke and myself, Alex Rodov, and we're just gonna start with a quick intro. And Martin, just a few words to my audience that may not know you, and then I'll do my part to your audience that may not know me. Go ahead.
Great, Alex. Thanks. I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak with you and share some of our experiences together. Um, I've been very fortunate with over 30 years. I've actually worked in two different types of sections that have really allowed me to guide, lead, and support within every organization I have. I've worked in coaching college athletics, and I've worked in the Fortune 1000 companies where I've guide, led, support, scaled, evolved PMOs or project driven organizations also through transformations. I've allowed both of my experiences to help provide me that insight to help others in many different companies. My career has been one that's gone through two paths, one where I've coached in college athletics, and the other that I've guide, led, and support PMOs in organizations, including Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies.
So you not just college athletics, you been coaching college football,
That
all
is
right?
correct. I was
Yeah,
fortunate enough early on in my life. I had the opportunity to coach at Stanford University and able to gain a lot
yeah,
of experience there that added value throughout my professional career.
yeah. We'll definitely talk about this, and not to mention, the cool experiences that you've been having through college football, but the where you're at right now is also not a regular, you know, boring business. This is what you guys do. You guys build casinos, right?
Actually, again, a great opportunity. I work for the infamous Churchill Downs, the home of Kentucky Derby. What a lot of people, even I, over the past few years, didn't really recognize was the great expansive business that Churchill Downs is in. 30 plus casino, gaming, hospitality presences across the country. Continued to still with their horse racing, but they really have evolved into a gaming and hospitality company. And that's included brownfields and greenfields, as they've grown their customer base and their revenue. It's a very exciting company to be a part of.
Very cool. Very cool. Very excited to hear all the experiences that you've been having. Well, just for some of the folks that see me first, I'm Alex Rodov, managing partner at Trust IT Group and the co-founder of the Friday Report.ai. So we've been working with PMOs and technology and implementation of PMO processes and building big programs, working on big initiatives, big programs, some of the largest SAP deployments, things like that, and ERP systems and things like that. So a lot of us are techie guys with PMO expertise, and this is where we'd like to have conversations with Martin and like to kind of deal and see what's going on out there with other industries. So to we talk about the PMO. We'll talk about AI. Don't worry about it. Most of the audience, obviously, we will talk a lot about the AI and how to deal with this. But I'd like to ask you a few questions about like the PMO and in our experience with the true PMO establishment or organizational unit, we like to think about the PMO as an organization that is responsible for the strategy. So, can you unpack that a little bit? What's in your mind PMO role is, and how does it impact the overall business strategy and business execution of that strategy?
Yeah, the powerful seat at the table that that PMO can add is that value where we're aligning right up front with the strategy, um, hearing right what is being taken in consideration for why we're doing something, what's the purpose, what's the value, what's the expectations, and being involved at that strategic level allows us to provide historical insight and future and future insight. what may hinder, what may be defending, what may be critical, all the risks that we may encounter. We allow this kind of value to be brought into that conversation right at the beginning. Then that allows that next phase or that next step from that idea to move to that next phase. And if we're going to have work done, we have a better opportunity then to identify what is the ultimate outcome, the ultimate goal that we're trying to achieve. And then we can break that down into the outcomes that really need to be built or serviced upon. And then it allows also in the projects to really identify what roles and work that needs to be done. So that value seat at the table right at the beginning for a PMO, we can be that strategic partner. We can provide that vision that down the road, call our shots. Sometimes I like to say, sitting at that table, I can give that kind of insight that they might not have taken into consideration, they might not have experienced, but because of the role that the PMO really plays, we've seen there, we've seen it, we've been there. We should be offering that type of strategic partnership with the executives when they're making decisions.
And I'm assuming that you guys have that seat at the table, which is great and great achievement for the organization, I think overall.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not a given, it's a continuous effort, depending upon the projects that are presented and the stakeholders that you're working with. It isn't you're continuously earning and showing your value, so it's not just a given that your seat's at the table.
a- and you probably, throughout the career, you know that PMO doesn't always have, the seat at the table. I mean, a lot of times it does have a seat at the table, but the voice, is not, as impactful as in different other organizations. My question would be, what would you recommend? What would you suggest for those PMOs in organizations where they don't have a seat at the table yet? And you just mentioned this is a continuous effort, right? You today have a seat at the table, tomorrow you might not have a seat at the table. So what would you suggest to those PMOs that they should do in order to get that seat at the table?
Yeah, great question, and that's reality. That happens all the time when we face that. Even if we've been successful somewhere where it's worked, we might be stepping into a new company that hasn't. So how do we make that winning and that successful, space and conditions? How do we create that? My best response to this is to share some of my experiences, Alex, and how I've approached and made it through to the other end. There are three common denominators, three variables that I think are non-negotiables. I know they're non-negotiables when a PMO and an organization are successful in that partnership. And that's trust in the leadership, trust in the system, and trust in communications. You could have two of the three, one of the three, or none of the three, and you might have some pockets of success. But the true organizational success is when all three are there. And you're pointing out to me is an opportunity where we don't have trust in leadership. So how do we gain that? It's a little bit of reverse engineering, and part of that goes right start for trust in the communications. Three levels in an organization. You got the data level, you got information level, and you got the knowledge level. So what we understand right now is we need to increase our value at the knowledge level. So we start right there at the bottom with the trust in communications. Get that common language. Get the right content of value to the right audiences, represent the right things that align with what they expect. Now, the reverse engineering aspect is not easy, but it is one that will get you there. So you start at that level right there with the people doing the work at the project management level. You get them speaking a common language. You get them starting to talk about outcomes and value. You then raise that up to the next level where you have your program level, maybe even your product people level, whatever that level is. Now you start bringing that data to that next level where these people use it as information and they align to those valued outcomes to make sure that they're achieving what they're expected to be delivering. Once that connection starts to resonate, you start building a system. And this is where you start taking that trust and communications into a trusted system. These people are getting this data, turning it into information. It's becoming to a point that they can trust it. So now those people that are at that product and program level have an opportunity to raise that up to the knowledge level for the people that have made decisions. They start creating a feedback loop, an escalation loop, a change management loop. All of this stuff gets built into the system. So now that you have that trust in the communications and trust in the system, you've built something in a foundation that's starting to deliver and resonate in that communication to the right people. So now you've given that opportunity at that middle level, that program product level, that you've raised their capabilities to deliver that to the people that have made the decisions. Now this has become something where they find the power from this information that's presented to them, that information is either going to validate the decision that they've made and they continue to grow and build upon it, or it presents where there's a misalignment that they can pivot or adapt, or this feedback loop has become so successful and maintaining that consistency and trust in the communications that they can recognize earlier rather than later that a decision that they made isn't providing the results that they expected. Now a real discussion can be made. Do we continue to put money and resources around this project that's not going to deliver? Or do we sit back at the table and maybe alter or change our decision, improve it? Or God forbid, maybe we make the decision that we just stop it because we know that we're not going to get the return. Not everybody likes to make a decision that later gets overturned, but it changes the discussion at the table where that can become a real discussion. No egos or emotions are there. We've actually trusted the communications in the system that allows us to really be stronger in our decision making. We can make it more frequently, we can make it more confidently, and we now have a system and communication in place that our people that deliver, they can actually move and align to it quicker, and we start seeing outcomes of value much more frequently, much more consistently, and at a higher quality. So, Alex, I share all of that. It is not an easy task, but it and I have done it. I even did it while I was working where Toyota was a client, believe it or not. That's how we worked our way back to become a valuable seat at the table where we were a strategic partner, where they came to us where they would be like, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you see in the communication feedback that you're getting and how it would impact, and what would our time frame be if we were to change our decisions or move this in strategically? How would we maneuver things around? So you get a little bit of what if analyzing with real time information, which gets exciting when you start talking about the AI. This is where AI probably starts working its way into this field where we start utilizing that. We're not changing, we're not removing people, we're making people more efficient in their communications and the quality of the information and data that they're providing. So I love this aspect, Alex. There's no situation that I don't feel comfortable and confident in some way, shape, or form that by guiding the trust in leadership, trust in the system, and trust in communications, that we will create the space and conditions to be this organization to be successful.
If you can, if you can give me a short follow-up answer to that with this question, how soon AI will have a seat at the table?
The seat's there. It's just whether people are recognizing it right now is the gap. It is there. We're talking about it today, but it's been being utilized for years now. We're just always we're the last in the chain of communication, right? It's out there. It's being utilized right now. Whether or not your organization recognizes it or has the forethought to start taking it into consideration, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, just to talk quickly back about the strategy and the execution, and the PMO is in charge of that execution of the strategy. So in business, we like to think that action is more senior, right? There's a concept of you have to get up and start doing that, even and make a mistake and make a correction and keep moving forward. So the action is very important. So strategy or execution, what's more important?
Can't have one without the other. This is interesting. I think um, in order for the strategy to have a shot, you have to have the system in place. You can have the best idea, you can have the best strategy, but you don't have the framework and the infrastructure within a system to make it provide the outcome that you want. A great idea is going to fail. Chicken or egg, you're kind of going out here. You could have, um, uh, you know, a great execution team or a flawed execution team. You could have a great strategy and a flawed. If they're not working in sync and in parallel, the outcome's going to be not successful. So they have to both be there. You can't have one or the other. And that's where I kind of talk about pockets. You may have a great strategy, you might not have the whole infrastructure, but you may be able to deliver a few things successfully, but they're still not connected. So it's challenging. Everybody wants that it's either this or that. but it's
I
just
don't.
like systems, cultures, etc. You have you even though they all need to be there, there has to be a synergy among them.
In my own opinion, if I would have to choose strategy versus execution, I would choose the execution. Um,
Okay.
from the perspective of you may have a flaws in your strategy, and this is definitely tough to figure out the best strategy out there. But if you have a flaws in your execution and you're not able to execute, no matter how just like you said, no matter how good your strategy is, you're gonna fail.
Yeah,
Um, just from that perspective, I do, and a lot of times it's not easy to go back to that simple formula like strategy versus execution when you talk about very important things, big things, and stuff like that. But we always just sometimes uh, go with the strategy and not making, especially in maybe not in the construction, like like in your business, like in when the products are software products or things that are not tangible products or services. It's very hard to execute, and I think the underlying PMO infrastructure is the key for execution. What do you think?
I don't disagree with that, but I think the challenge, the way I would take on the challenge, even though I think they both need, you're right. I focus with the execution aspect. If I don't have the infrastructure and system in place, it doesn't matter what you bring us. We're not going to be able to deliver what you want if we're not efficient and structured appropriately. If you have a great execution system, but you have a bad strategy, garbage in, garbage out, right? You're going to build something that they wanted. Excellent. You're going to build something great, but it's not going to be what they wanted. That happens a lot in product development, right? You got to build
Mm-hmm.
the right thing, build the thing right, and build the right thing fast. But if you're not building the right thing, you're just going to build something of high quality that doesn't match. So yes, you are right there. Where that's where I focus is right around that. But which one is more important? That's why I say there's got to be synergy there because you can have a great execution, but if you got crap strategy coming out, you're still gonna be crap at the other end.
Well, thanks, Martin. Let's talk about some. Let's talk about teams. Let's talk about the challenge. How do we when you were describing we got to do this, we got to do that, and then we have the systems in place and teams in place and resources in place. How do you make them work together? How do you make them collaborate? How do you make them be efficient? And specifically, there is I was fortunate to be at one of the workshops that provided by Linda. I'll mention her name in the description here. So one of her points about the collaboration and bringing the teams together was don't do don't do it for the team that the team can do for themselves. So you have big enough organization, big enough project going on, a lot of different teams. You don't have a direct control over any of these teams for the most part. But how do you build that structure that where those teams are self-sufficient, those teams are you know, uh, self-sufficient basically, right? When they can provide themselves enough insight, provide themselves enough incentives to operate and be successful. I mean, dealing with people with systems in place, I agree, we need to have them, but dealing with people is by far the most complicated problem.
We're human, right? And that you just that's the key thing is to recognize that we're working with people. Um, and yes, you heard my key three things around trust in leadership, trust in the system, and trust in communications. So what we're talking about are making sure that the space and conditions have been created for people to be successful. So that means that system and those communications must be trusted in order for those people to be successful. Because if that's not in place, you're kind of setting them up for failure anyway, even if it was a great person. You could take, oddly enough, take Tom Brady, you put him in an unorthodox, crappy team like the Cleveland Browns, and
Okay.
he's going to do his best, but he's probably not going to be successful, right? But that's where you come in as a leader. And one of the things that I always take, and I'll check and challenge myself, is we work different together. So that means as a leader and moving people, you need to recognize that everybody brings a different value and a different strength to the table, and they also each have different gaps or weaknesses. So when you're bringing all these people together, you need to recognize that all the time. You need to make sure that you are putting these people in the right position to make the best play with the skills and talent that they are aligned with. That does require a leader to think and have forward thought and take the time to observe and assess and engage. So if the system is in place and the communication is there, now you're looking to make sure that there's clarity in what's expected. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. I want to tell you what I need from you in this role. I always, when I go into an organization, one of the first things I do to look for red flags in an organization or a green flag, I apply two things. And I learned this when I was at Stanford. 2 + 2 = 4. You will engage with people that think that's the only way to get to 4. But there's what, 1 + 3, there's 4 + 0, so you need to go in and know that you're walking into that. And if the leadership is working around a 2 + 2 = 4 for everybody, you need to focus to help change that. The other on the board to be able to see what you're working with, because this is people, these are all people, is you go through and you start doing this with your leaders also, and maybe people that are key communicators. 10 times 10 is 100, 10 times 9 is 90. You go through all that all the way down to 1 times 10 is 10. Well, when you do that exercise, you do one that you know may be wrong. So 3 times 10 is 33. Well, in the room, you wait for the response from the individuals. And when you start hearing that people, you'll recognize that one person might say, well, you got one wrong. Well, that just pulls up a flag to me that that person, you're going to do 9 things great, but that person's going to always look at the one things that's wrong. It ain't good, it ain't bad. It just is. That's the way they're biased and conditioned. But then you have the other people that you look for that'll be like, oh, you got 9 things right. You must have been going fast, I'm guessing, and that was a slur. But tell me why. Maybe that's something. So now you're getting a real understanding of the environment and the type of people that you work with. You're recognizing what people's values and skills are. Now you have an opportunity as a leader in that system and that trusted communication. Now you're earning this trust in leadership. Now you have the opportunity to put these people in the right position to do the best that they can. But at the same time, you're giving them that ability to do it how, which means there's decision making in there. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You're going to need to decide. But I want you to know that if you drop that ball and fumble, I'm right there with you to pick it up. I always tell my people, I'm not here to do it to you. I'm not here to do it for you, but I'll go to the ends of the earth with you. And when you start establishing this within the system and the communications, people will, on their own, hold themselves accountable. They will do their best. They're people. They're going to want to do their best. But what they need to know is they have to have that clarity of what it is that people are trying to get towards. They're going to use their best, strongest skills to get there. And the areas that they're not, you need to be there as a leader to support them and help fill that gap, or recognize that that may be something that they're going to run into, and let's start preparing for it. So it's not necessarily the quick response to that, but in order to be successful, these are the things that need to be taken into consideration as a leader. If you're not actually doing this, don't expect that outcome for these individuals to be successful, because in some way, shape, or form as a leader, you've presented a space and conditions for failure in there for them. They could be the greatest and the strongest in a certain skill set, but if you haven't put them in the right position, in the right space and right conditions, you've set them up for failure. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration, Alex, when you start doing this. And I think the more of this type of leadership that resonates, I think we'll see these outcomes where people are making decisions. We've given them that capability. Why? Because we know that they have the skill set and the capabilities. But within the system and the communications, if there is a misalignment, we've got that feedback loop in there quickly. And we're doing this not as an emotional attachment or whatever thing. It's just an action that's taken place that didn't meet what we exceeded. Let's figure out how we make this better and how we make sure that it doesn't happen the next time. I know this is not probably not your normal necessary response, Alex, but this comes back all the way. Like I said, when I used to coach, there was so much value that was learned. Everybody just sees the end result on Saturdays and Sundays. What they don't see are the 16 to 18-hour days of the 6 days leading up to that. And a lot of that has to do with being able to work differently together, getting 120 plus players plus multiple staff moving in a common direction, but yet each individual has a different skill set. So when you're out there and you make a play, you need to know that that individual has gone through the practice, has the skill set to be able to execute that play. Because if you as a coach haven't put them and prepared them for that, you failed them. So I always used to have frustration with coaches that would scream and holler at their players. because I would say, you know what, you didn't do your job, or they would have executed that properly. The failure is on you as a leader. So I used to use that as a gauging too, to see how effective a coach was as a leader with his team members. Did he recognize that that individual actually didn't have that skill set yet, or he wasn't at his top game yet to be able to execute on the play you called? So don't expect that outcome if you haven't prepared them properly or know that they have that skill set. The same thing applies into the workforce. So it's probably my most passionate aspect of everything, Alex, is I'm here to make sure that I create the space and conditions for everybody to be successful as an entire organization, as an entire department, and every individual within my team. You have to create that to be successful. If you don't, you're shortcutting it, which means you're going to end up with a half good result or a horrible catastrophe. So the onus is on the leaders. Let's just get
So,
there. There.
so if the football team is the business, what role PMO is playing?
We're one of the coordinators. We're one of the coordinators because we're a coordination layer within the organization, right? We're coordinating the strategy to the execution. We're coordinating all the roles and responsibilities. We're coordinating the communications. And you could look at the head coach as your CIO, CEO, CTO, whatever you want, wherever it reports, maybe the CFO. But you're acting as a coordinator within the organization, and all your departments are like position coaches.
Nice, nice. So how do you how do you pick a quarterback in business compared to the
You know,
football?
that comes with the ability to actually do what I was just sharing about being able to observe, assess, look and see where you're not going to put an offensive lineman as a quarterback, right? There are going to be some
Mhm.
attributes that don't align to that. So if I'm looking for a quarterback, I'm looking for somebody who is has clarity and transparency and everything, because that creates the accountability aspect, right? So they're willing to be clear and precise, and wherever the accountability lies, they're there with it. They have the ability to see the big picture. They understand when you're a quarterback, you have to know what all 22 people on the field are doing, not just your job. You need to know what everyone is doing. So you need somebody with the capability and capacity to actually think like that. Again, why I do those little exercises and see where somebody's biased mind is. People can grow from that, of course, but there's some people that just have it intuitively, and you've got to observe and assess them in situations. You've got to actually put them in situations to see how they respond, whether it be a real one or just general talk, to see how they would respond to it, share experiences. So you're looking for that conduit right there in the middle, that someone that has the ability to see the big picture, can resonate at all levels, has the ability to articulate and communicate valued content to the right people. I'm not talking to the offensive lineman with wide receiver stuff, because it's going to go one ear and out the other, right? I need to make sure that I've got the specific and right alignment there. So when you find individuals who have that, those are the ones you want to guide, lead, and support the team. That's what you want in the quarterback position. You might find you might find people who have some of it, but not all of it. Great. I've identified somebody I've got to coach up. I've got to get them to that next level, to where they need to be. So that's what I'm always looking for, is that individual. And I can tell you that individual has come from people just by looking at them, you'd never know. So you cannot just judge by that. You really have to get engaged. I actually, Alex, I walk around every day. I took the old Gemba walk for manufacturing and applied that to my leadership 20 years ago. They're going to walk around and see what the plant's doing. I'm going to go walk around and see how my people are doing. They don't fear me when they see me. They talk to me. I get more information out of them. I get them sharing together. It allows me to get that informal information. I've found that walking in the formal and informal world has allowed me to be able to identify and put people in the right situations to be successful and continue to grow. So there's a lot that goes into it. It isn't just a one look. It isn't just a one drive, one great football throw doesn't make you a quarterback. There's consistency that's in that's aligned in there. And when you are comfortable and confident that you're capable, that no matter what situation comes your way, that you can make sure that the entire team can handle it, that's my quarterback.
Well, there's this belief, and I fully believe in that too. That all our failures is making us stronger to succeed in the future. So if you had a bad game, you know, on Saturday, and you lost miserably. You in the locker room having this talk with the team. Um, is it the same talk in business when something like this happens?
I use the same approach. We recognize where we dropped the ball. To ignore it would be ignorance. So we don't ignore that. We recognize what we did well. We did some things well. You might have lost by 40 points, but you still did something great. You lost by 40 points. There was probably some great offensive. There's probably a few good defensive. You want to highlight those because you want to continue to build on them. For the areas where we dropped the ball, what was it? Was it situational? Was it something that we didn't hammer home enough? Was it the wrong play calls? There's a lot of things. What it does is it requires us to do a lessons learned, a reflection. We do that in corporate America. The difference is the one that I do is it's the implement and reinforce aspect. So I'll take that moment afterwards to recognize everything that we did well, that we did, and we things that we did not do well, and we stop right there. It's over. We can't go back and we can't regain the past. What the past has given us is an opportunity to build upon, make things better, or improve things that are even what we've been doing well. And now we get back to, all right, now, how do we implement and reinforce these fixes? This is where a lot of organizations drop the ball on lessons learned within their organizations. They think it's just
Hmm.
a meeting and a documentation. Well, leaders should take this strategically. Now, I have 5 or 6 days to implement and reinforce those new adjustments. Right? No excuses because I don't get to wait for a quarterly report order. I got 6 days till my next opponent comes to the next marketplace. I got to put a product on that field and we got to execute. Because when we lose, our organization loses money, whether it's merchandising, butts and seats, visibility, marketing dollars, advertising dollars. It is the same thing as the business. So I apply that same approach. We will address the situation where we have done wrong. You know, pick you fumbled the ball, right? I tell you, here's a thing that I used to do, and when I worked with the receivers, if my receiver dropped the ball, the first thing I wanted to do was get a ball thrown to him as quickly as possible to know that just because he dropped that ball, I did not lose my confidence in him. Not at all. You are going to have that opportunity to redeem yourself. Redemption's coming your way. Do not worry. DBs on the defensive side, you just gave up a touchdown. So what? That's why Ted Lasso talks about the goldfish. You got another play coming up. You can't give up another touchdown. You got to continue moving. So you have to, as a leader, make sure that you've instilled that they understand that that's already happened. We recognize the situation and we move forward and we implement and reinforce the ways to make us better. And that's through either practice, film study, your situational play theory, whatever it may be. So it's the
I
same.
agree.
I do the same.
I agree that the lessons learned are very much getting dropped, like a last, afterthought for a lot of PMOs. And I think especially now, and this is our way to segue to the AI topic real quick, is that having those lessons learned and documenting the success or failures, and failures are more important to document, then we can learn on that, right? Then we can continuously improve going forward, and make corrective actions to not make the same mistakes, and get to the end zone at the end of the day, right? Which is not the end zone, which is the beginning of something else. So um, with that, I think AI is something that will allow us to automate this process to a degree. I think we can now capture lessons learned in more automated fashion. We now have systems more and more so where we have all of our tasks in the strategy and execution and resources, logging all the information in, and we can have this collective information to have now AI to run and help us to execute.
I love the AI aspect, but I love it in a way that many others might not. I'm not looking for it to make the decision for me. I still want that human interaction, but this is where I see it. It's the end. The lessons learned aspect. How do we advance? What are we moving for? What have we learned? So we get to check and challenge ourselves very frequently, more often, and gain efficiencies. And that's where I think a huge value add comes by embracing AI right now. We don't have to look for it to be replacing people in their roles. Let's utilize AI to be part of our decision making and then use it as that great rear view mirror that we have and use the what if analysis with it. And if we were going to move forward, with utilizing the AI technology that we have, we could probably get some rapid responses and rapid situations and scenarios that we can act upon. What we really ultimately get with AI is preparation that for whatever situation comes our way, we're prepared for. We've prepared for it. We've got already in, uh, we already have playbooks or whatever it may be in hand, we can execute upon. We already have the roles predefined. We already know what work needs to be done. The situation has happened. Let's go. We've already been here. We've learned from it. So AI is going to give us a great opportunity to be prepared and execute from those learning lessons. So I'm a big fan of it. I've been working
Yeah.
actually, Alex, for a few years, really on my own on the side, uh, focusing on that and building where the AI and that partnership from ideation to detect to execute to advance, all of that. The AI is that the glue to all of it and really takes us to a whole new level. I know people have been feared out that AI is taking everybody's, and it's just like anything, the computer at one point was supposed to get rid of. We weren't going to copy. It was going to ruin. We weren't going to copy or print papers anymore. We still print and copy as much as we always have.
Yeah.
There things that said Excel's going away. People still use Excel. This is the thing that I really, the fear is the gap because of the unknown. And I don't want people to run away from that gap of the unknown. I want them to take it head on, like a buffalo does, right? Runs right through the storm. We should be taking that same mindset with AI, going right at it, going, how's this going to make us better? How's this going to make us more efficient? Let's not run from it. We might find ways that we've never thought about at this point right now that if we ran
Yeah.
away, we never know. But if we put the buffalo head and run right through it, I think that's where the human will advance further than the AI. I mean, we're the
Yeah.
ones. Don't remove us from the equation.
In a sense, the AI should help us to run through it as
Yes.
well,
Yes.
right? So AI itself should help us do that.
Limit
And
ourselves.
so we one of our products that we have is the PMO radar, where you basically, in front of you have your future, in the past you have the rear mirror with lessons learned and everything that happened to you, and that kind of constantly circulating both, sectors of the future and the past, and whatever just happened, already taken into account for what may happen in the future. So the concept of the radar is very effective, and everybody's talking about the insights, PMO insights, and working with data, and being able to predict, right? The famous, if you predict, you win, right? If you know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? You can win
Yeah,
today. So anyway, look, it's great conversation, Martin. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're gonna create all kinds of material from it.
yeah,
Um,
Alex.
any
My,
anything else you want to add, Martin?
no, Alex, my pleasure being here. I really appreciate it. Oddly enough, you know, my path has been different. My experiences have been broad. I've worked in a multitude of industries, and I've taken from each one of them and tried to apply what the common variables were for success. So, although others may not align or agree or have ever been exposed, I think that's just part of the discussion and sharing. I love sharing. I want everybody to have an opportunity to build and grow from what I may have experienced and they may not have. If I've touched the red hot stove, I don't want you to touch the red hot stove, but I want you to know it's there. And I want you to know how you can get around it. So I appreciate the opportunity to share this. I hope there's some value that some individuals might be able to take and apply. And then I'm always open for more discussion. So thanks, Alex. You got a great platform and I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Martin. Again, we do appreciate your time to share the insights. We Again, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll stay in touch, and see you soon. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, friend. Thanks.